Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode in the Run Breiter Podcast. As always, I am your host, Sam Breiter, joined with
Colleen Mack.
And today we have a special edition of the Run Breiter Podcast. Today we are doing a little bit of a Chicago Marathon preview, but the way that we're doing it, it's not like a typical preview episode when there's a race coming up. Colleen and I decided that we would ask each other 5 questions before the podcast that we are actually personally curious about going into the Chicago Marathon. We each did research and got answers to those questions, and so today we're going to be filming those questions and answers, and we figure if we have those questions, most likely if you're going to be running this race either this year in 2024 or any other year in general, the answers to the questions are going to benefit you as far as being prepared, excited, and ready to go for race weekend. And so, yeah, just really excited. We're filming this episode 12 days out for the race, and we've both been training really hard, wouldn't you say, Colleen?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so we'll kick things off. You want to hit the first question, or you want to be, ask the first question?
I'll put you on the hot seat first.
All right.
I guess we'll start at the beginning. How do you get into the Chicago Marathon?
Yeah, so there's actually a few ways to get in. I think a lot of people think that the only way to get into world major marathons, which for those who don't know, Chicago Marathon, it is a world major marathon. A world major marathon is a special marathon because it is approved by an association known as Abbott Marathon Majors. And so because of that, these races are more selective to get into. However, the experience around these races have a lot more history, and they just make the weekend a lot more special than a typical local marathon that you might see in your home city, right? And so let's just start off with that. But yeah, like I said, there are many ways of getting into the race. The first way that we see a lot of people getting into the race, and probably the easiest way of getting in regarding like overall effort and finances, is to get in through the lottery. I know that's the way that you got in, Colleen. Worked out really nicely for the two of us to be able to travel and do this race together. And so lottery odds, I think, can range each year, but all you have to do is take a look at the application deadline, apply prior to that deadline being due, and have your fingers crossed that you'll be selected for the race. And, I think typically it's like a 5 to 10% chance, so it's not impossible. Many people get in this way, but you gotta have a little bit of luck to get in through the lottery. And after you get selected, your credit card will be charged the standard cost of what the race cost. Another way to get into the marathon is to qualify. I got in by running a 3:02 marathon, which actually wouldn't qualify for next year's race. The standards have been increasing pretty much year after year. But I think what's cool about Chicago compared to a race like Boston, for example, is that if you qualify, you most likely will get in regardless of hitting certain cutoffs, which I think is really nice to know that, hey, if I run the time that the race asks me to run, I don't have to worry about what the field does. I just have to worry about myself. So that's another big way to get in. Now, the qualifying times will range based on your gender and age, so I just recommend researching what that time is, because every year things are going to look a little bit different on that, is my best guess. Another way of getting into the race is through charity. There are multiple charity options that Chicago Marathon gives you the 2 thumbs up. Hey, it's completely fine to do these charities, and if you raise X amount of dollars, we will support you and make sure we get you into the race. Compared to other world major marathons, I think why a lot of people love Chicago is that the charity amount that you need to fundraise is a bit lower than other races. And so, don't quote me on this, but I believe the lowest charity option is roughly $2,500 raised, which is a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but when you look at other world major marathons, it's a fair bargain. So definitely a good option. And then another option that a lot of people don't know about, actually, I don't even know if you know about this, Colleen, is tour groups. Have you at all heard about the tour group option into the Chicago Marathon?
I knew that they existed, especially for some other international majors, but I guess it would make sense that other people who are not from America would have an international tour group. So,
Yeah. Whether you're in America or you're international, the tour group options exist. I was actually researching like the price because that piece I didn't know. Benefits you actually to have a group of 2. And so if you were to do this solo, $1,100 to $1,500 is what you're looking at for the cost of the race. The hotel, depending on the hotel, is kind of the factor that will determine that price. And then there's even like meals and like special events that you get to be a part of with that tour group. Typically, there's like a few hundred people within that group, so it's also like a good social opportunity if you're trying to get to know more people within that community. But if you have a group of 2, you might see it as low as $1,800 to $2,500, right? And so that's obviously nice as well. If you got 2 people to go with, it's a little bit less per person for that experience. And then the last way of actually getting in, which most of us probably don't have this, but if you're a Chicago local or you just love this race, if you do the race within a 10-year span 5 or more times, you actually can just automatically get into the following year's race. And so, if you're loyal to the Chicago Marathon, you don't get in through the lottery, you're not qualifying in a given year, but you do the race year after year after year, there's a very good chance that they'll just let you in due to that loyalty, which I think is really cool. Any thoughts or any questions on that? Anything I missed from your side? I think that's everything there.
I don't think so. I think that's all of it. Thank you.
Yeah, well, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and ask you my first question here, which is, of course, these races, we want to be logistically prepared before the race, after the race, but I think the most important part is during the race. And so I got to know, because I haven't checked out myself, where are the water stations? Where are they going to be handing out fuel? Cheer stations, bathrooms, all that. And any thoughts there, Colleen?
Yeah, so I'm going to pull out my notebook here because I did a lot of research on this specifically. So about every 2 miles, there will be an aid station. What will be at each aid station varies a little bit, but every aid station will have bathrooms, so roughly every 2 miles. A little bit more. There's, I think, 20 aid stations. So there's 20 different bathrooms available. They will all have water and Gatorade. They will all have...
So every 2 miles, water and Gatorade, not every mile?
Roughly every 2 miles, there's an aid station.
Okay.
Every aid station has water and Gatorade. There are 20 aid stations total.
Okay. Cool.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, and each aid station has access to medical. And if you need to drop out for any reason, they have transport that will take you back to Grant Park, too, at any of the aid stations. The Gatorade will specifically be lemon lime Gatorade. They specified that, which it's important to know in case you wanted to try that out on any of your long runs, which we've been doing.
Yeah.
And they are not on the exact miles. So it's roughly every 2 miles, but for example, miles 13.6, 18.2, and 23.04 will have the Mortons, will have the gels.
Okay.
And then aid stations 19.2, 20.2, and 22.3 will also have Chiquita bananas.
Good to know. Do you know what a Chiquita banana is? Because I don't.
That's the brand of a banana.
Just like your regular bananas.
Yeah, but Chiquita's the brand.
Okay. I don't know if it's maybe chocolate covered or...
It's the competition with Dole bananas.
Sure.
So it's Chiquita banana, not a Dole banana.
I just buy bananas. I don't really look at the brand ever, but good to know.
I'm sure you'd recognize the sticker.
Probably.
Yeah. And then there are specified Bank of America cheer zones, which are at miles 13 and mile 26. Those are the only specified ones that I could find, but there are plenty of viewing opportunities elsewhere, but those were the 2 Bank of America cheer zones.
Cool. Yeah, that's good to know. From what I've heard throughout the entire course, there's going to be people cheering you on, which I think is what makes that race so special in so many ways. So yeah, really excited for that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that. That was really helpful for me, and definitely will be rewatching this to make sure I know where I can get my fuel, get my water, go to the bathroom if needed. Hopefully not, because we're going for a fast time. But what question you got for me next here, Colleen?
Wouldn't you ask? Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
We're a little mix-up here.
So we talked a little bit about fueling that'll be along the course. What is your fueling strategy? Like, how often are you going to be fueling? What are you going to use for your fueling?
Yeah, so I'm going to replicate what I've been kind of doing for my long runs, which is a gel every 30 minutes. Also, I guess let's start from the beginning. Before the race, I'm going to have a bagel with honey on it, as well as coffee, and probably about a cup worth of water, right? I want to have enough water to feel hydrated and ready to go, but I also don't want to overdo it where I feel like I need to go to the bathroom as I'm like nervous at the beginning of the race. Once we get into the actual race itself, every 30 minutes, I'll be having a gel. The gel that I've been using has been the BPN Go Gels, no affiliation with BPN. I just like the reliability of their brand, and I really like that applesauce flavor. It's, you know the name, is it apple?
I think it's just apple cinnamon.
Apple cinnamon. I believe it's apple cinnamon. Go Gels. As you can see, we know what we're taking, but it's the apple flavored gel, essentially. You can't miss it. And yeah, it tastes good. It sits well in my stomach. It's consistent. There's no caffeine in it. I used to take caffeine gels. Sometimes it makes me feel great. Sometimes it makes my heart rate get out of whack. And so I just want to know that I have something I can like trust and count on throughout the entire race. And so, yeah, it's about 100 calories, 27 grams of carbs. So if I take it every 30 minutes and I'm going for under 3 hours, you know, I would probably expect to take 5 or 6 of these gels, give or take. I'm also going to, anytime I have the opportunity to drink water, as well as the yellow Gatorade that you shared, I'm going to do so because I drank a lot of water through my training. I had a lot of electrolytes. I was only drinking that Gatorade during my long runs when it comes to electrolyte drinks, and didn't really suffer any major crampings or complications. So I'm confident with my ability to take a lot of that down, and my body will certainly need it. So that's going to be my strategy. You know, I don't do any like salt tablets, gummies, actual food, anything like that, but I do know other people have found success. So, you know, if you want to get one of those bananas that they have, I don't think it's a horrible idea, but I'm not going to change the strategies that have worked with me throughout my training. And so I would recommend the same for you. You know, if you've been doing something with training, you've been using goos, for example, and then you find out, hey, they're giving out Mortons. Well, I wouldn't switch to Mortons because the consistency, flavor, as well as ingredient profile is incredibly different than what you would see in a goo, right? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Especially the Morton consistency is unlike any gel that I've ever had. I use Morton's, but it would be an interesting one to try out for the first time on race day, for sure.
Totally. Well, the next question I have for you here, Colleen, is about the history of the Chicago Marathon. There's a few small little facts that I know. However, I feel like there's more I should know. I'm sure we'll learn during the race weekend, but get me excited. What is the history of the race?
Yeah, so the city of Chicago, I found out, had historically ran marathons in Chicago from 1905 to like 1920-ish, but they were not affiliated with the current Chicago Marathon that we know now. So the first Chicago Marathon to occur in the current race series happened in September of 1977, and it started to grow in popularity. Eventually it became a rival with the New York City Marathon, based off of the amount of prize money that could be awarded. And so that's how it became like a more prestigious marathon, was the popularity and then the prize money affiliated with it, which would draw those more elite runners into the field. And it became a pretty big marathon even before the Marathon Major Association existed. So then whenever the Marathon Major Association became an association in 2006, it was granted to be part of that. So it predates the Majors Association, which I thought was pretty cool.
Wow. I had no idea that the World Majors Association's only been around since '06. It feels like it's been longer, even though, I mean, I haven't been running marathons so long, but, like, doesn't it feel like this is, like, a historic, older thing?
It does, and also, like, the Chicago Marathon hasn't always been called the Chicago Marathon. Like, the first one that was in 1977 was called, like,
wow,
the Mayor Daily Marathon. So
what a fun name.
They named it after the mayor.
And I'm going to do the Mayor Daily Marathon.
And I'm guessing when that mayor was no longer mayor, they were like, oh, that backfired. Let's come up with a...
I'm sure the mayor was doing it as well, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they called it. Or he was just like, this is my idea. Marathon. Or she. My bad.
That's what I thought. But anyway, yeah, they probably were like, maybe we should have a more evergreen name for this marathon and go with one like the Chicago Marathon. But I thought that was pretty cool. And yeah, I was surprised. I thought, like, for some reason in my head, I thought that, like, the Marathon Majors Association was, like, this super historical, like, very long-standing thing. And really, it's been around for less than 20 years.
Yeah. And even Chicago, I mean, only being around since 1977, I mean, that's not really a long time. Like, our parents, were alive when that first started. So that's pretty crazy to think about. Well, cool, Colleen. Thanks for sharing some of the history of the race. Was there anything else to add there? Or those kind of the fun facts you had?
Oh, something that I thought was kind of fun was the first Chicago Marathon had, like, 4,000 runners in it.
Wow. And
now there's, like, 50,000 that are estimated to run this year. So it's crazy to see how much it's grown. Yeah,
it's gained popularity by more than 10 times. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Well, cool. What do you got next for me?
Yeah, so what are you planning on wearing or carrying during the race?
Yeah, it's a good question. And, I know you've spent a lot of time thinking about what you're wearing, and I'm excited you just got a really nice new pair of shorts here today, actually. She's blushing if you're watching because I was making fun of her a little earlier about the amount of black shorts you have. But those shorts are very nice, and we're very excited for you to use them. You look like you're going to explode. Don't explode. As far as me, the question was asked towards me. I got a Nike tank top. The last few marathons I've ran, I've been using like this black Lululemon tank top. However, I feel like that can sometimes get a little hot, and especially going from dry heat to humidity, the last thing I want to do is feel hot. Now, Chicago Marathon is typically a cooler race, but with that said, the sun is going to be perhaps powerful, and I just want to be as cool as possible because I'm going to be sweating a lot. And so that lighter color I think will be great. It's like this very good dry fit material with holes in it. It's actually the tank top that a lot of the Olympic marathon runners that were sponsored by Nike were wearing. So definitely is a little bit of an investment, but the whole experience is one. So might as well wear the best gear that I can. I also have Nike trail shorts, which is ironic because it's not a trail race, but I really like the trail shorts because of the pockets. They're comfortable, they fit me really well, and I think that's more important than what it's described as. So that's what I'll be wearing. They're probably about halfway down to the knee. Just for reference, they're not, baggy basketball shorts, nor would I say are they like super short running shorts, kind of in the middle there. And then I will be wearing the Nike Vaporfly 3s, which I wore during the St. George Marathon when I ran my fastest marathon at 3:02. Those shoes probably now have 40 or 50 miles in them because I've also worn them for a half marathon and some training runs. But yeah, I feel confident in them, even though when I ran St. George, I thought the shoes were like broken, which is kind of funny. So yeah, that's essentially my outfit. I'll either do like a hat or a headband, depending on the sun strength. And and undecided on sunglasses. We'll see. I'm not really sure on that. I've actually never worn sunglasses during a race, so might avoid it, but I've been training a lot more with sunglasses. So some of it hasn't even been fully determined, which is okay. We still have 12 days. And then, yeah, as far as like what I'm carrying, it'll just be my goos, or the Go gels, that is. They're not goos, the gels. Nothing else. I won't be bringing headphones with me because the experience of the crowd will be enough energy for me to feel like I, am getting that energy from that compared to from music, which I train a lot with music. We're staying at a local hotel, so I'll probably plan to pick up my phone after the race to be able to find you. And, maybe I'll carry like the hotel key, but I might just act like I lost it to front desk, and they'll look me up and be able to give me a new key after the race so we can lighten up every single pound that we can, because I like to stay light. I'll also be wearing my Garmin. But with that said, I think something that, I'm going to be cautious about for Chicago, because they say that the GPS tracking is not really accurate. Apparently, like, out of the gates, you're going to think you're running like a 3-minute mile when you're running like a 7 or 8-minute mile sort of thing. And just the overall tracking is just completely messed up. So I'm going to have my watch just to have it. I'm going to run it. But I think I'm going to just mostly focus with making sure I can find this 3-hour pace group and just keeping with them throughout the entire duration of the race.
You could manually lap whenever you pass the mile.
And manually lap. But yeah, I think I want to just try to stay with that group and not even like be looking at my watch. I don't want to like waste any energy or just be overstressed and thinking about like the mileage too much and whatnot. And so that's my plan. And then probably when I get to like mile 18 to 20, trying to slip away from them. So that's kind of my game plan as far as like what I'm carrying and how I'm thinking about the race and wearing as well. And yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, yeah, my next question for you, Colleen, is how can people actually follow along with the race? The folks who are unable to make it to Chicago and want to either tune in on like a tracking app or watch the race itself on live television or, whatever other broadcasting options there are. What'd you come up with there?
Yeah, so the Chicago Marathon has a Chicago Marathon app where you can put in different racers that you want to track through their bib number or through their name. And that tracker gets updated every 5 kilometers, so roughly every 3 miles. And then it also gets updated at the halfway point as well, and then the finish line. And as far as watching, there is a live stream on NBCChicago.com. NBC will be the ones that will be streaming the Chicago Marathon. And then if you're in like the local streaming services of Chicago, NBC5 Chicago will be covering it on live TV as well, in Telemundo in Spanish. So yeah, there's the online live stream of NBCChicago.com, or you can get the Chicago Marathon app and add different runners that you want to watch and get updated every 5 kilometers and at the halfway point.
Sweet. Good to know. Well, add us to your race trackers and, hopefully you can catch the race on TV. And I think it's always fun to watch it, even if, like, you don't know anyone running it or you want to have your tracker on one end, the live broadcast on the other side. I think many different ways to view and enjoy the race.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. All right, so Sam, what is so special about the Chicago Marathon for you?
Yeah, and I don't have, I think, a full answer right now. I think the answer of, like, what is special about this race, as a preview compared to actually going through the experience, I think is going to be different. But I think something that's like really cool about this race is you go through 29 neighborhoods. Some of the neighborhoods that I wrote down, because I don't really know Chicago that well: Grant Park, Willis Tower, and the Magnificent Mile, are all iconic Chicago neighborhoods. And like we said earlier, there's going to be spectators throughout the entire race. I can only imagine what we're going to see from DJs to bands to, you know, local school groups, choirs, who knows. But I know as a runner, the race is going to be an incredibly entertaining experience because it's perhaps one of Chicago's greatest events of the year, and it's honestly one of the greatest events of the year, period. I would make the argument for going into it, which I think is really neat. You know, you probably have someone from every state and almost every country in the world that are going to be running this race. 50,000 runners, a bunch of professional runners, celebrities, and then people with amazing stories, people who, you know, may have lost a leg and they're now part of the wheelchair series, or you have someone who couldn't, you know, didn't think they could walk again, who's now running the race. People with, you know, horrible asthma, like I deal with that. Comeback stories of people who were going down a bad path in life and they were able to find running in their life and make their life special. I think it's the countless stories of the people who run this race that truly makes the race like so special. And the fact that the race gets the attention, the appreciation that it gets, it's a exclusive race that's also, I think, welcoming to get, you know, it's like out of all the world majors, I think it's one of the more approachable ones to get in. And it's a flat race. And so because it's flat, as well as during a time of the year that the weather in Chicago is typically beautiful, we see a lot of people run their best times. There's a lot of personal bests that happen. You know, a race like Boston, people do it for the experience. A race like Chicago, people do it because they want to break their best time. The fastest marathon ever was done at the Chicago Marathon, official marathon time.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's proven year after year that, like, you could show up there and do something that you never thought was possible. And so I'm excited to see, like, what you and I can both do. We've both had such an incredible training block where I think so much more went right than wrong, even though we might be harder on ourselves in the days where maybe we didn't feel great compared to feeling good about ourselves on the days where things went really well. But all that at this point doesn't matter. What matters is the day, the experience that we have, and having a lot of fun, but also the opportunity to really reach high levels of potential. So I think that's why I think it's a special race. But I'll probably have a different answer for you on October 14th, the day after the race. But that's what I'm going with for now.
Okay, thank you, Sam.
Yeah. Well, cool. With that said, I'm curious because I definitely need to be prepared for this. What's the race day schedule looking like, you know, for viewers and for runners to know? And anything you got there for us?
Yeah, so I mainly focused for the runners, but also knowing that, like, some of this does impact viewers, especially people who are planning on spectating the race. So I thought that this was kind of surprising, but at 5:30, 2 hours before the race begins, everything opens. So if you get there 2 hours early, 5:30 in the morning is when, you know, gear check opens, Grant Park opens, the corrals open. 5:30 a.m. before the first wave starts, before anything else starts. That's whenever everything opens. At 7:20 a.m., the wave 1 corrals close. So Sam, you have to be in your corral by 7:20 a.m. Otherwise, it's closed.
That's earlier than I thought. Great.
You start at 7:30.
Oh, all right. I thought it was 8:30.
No.
We need to go to bed soon.
At 7:30, the wave 1 starts, so that's when you start.
Okay.
I mean, unless I really misunderstood all.
No, you're probably right.
Okay.
You're probably right.
At 7:45, the wave 2 corrals close, so that's when I need to be in my corral by 7:45 at the latest, because I start running at 8 o'clock with the wave 2 start. And at 8:10, the wave 3 corrals close, so that's the last corral, or the last wave that we'll go through. And at 8:35 is when the wave 3 starts. You heard Sam reference some of the adaptive athletics, and those races begin prior. So people who will be racing using adaptive assistive devices such as like cycling, different types of scooters, like the different types of bipedal powering machinery. I don't know the names of all of them. That starts at, I believe, like 7:15, maybe 7:20. It starts before the Wave 1 runners.
Typically those go 10 to 15 minutes prior to the Wave 1, so
yes.
That sounds right.
Yes, and then at 9:30 a.m., Grant Park opens to spectators. So if you're planning on watching the race, specifically the end of the race, 9:30 a.m. is when that opens. 9:30 a.m. is also when the post-race party starts. The 27th mile post-race party begins at 9:30 a.m. And then everything is open until 4 p.m. That's when gear check closes, and that's when the post-race party officially ends. So between 9:30 a.m. and 4 p.m. it's just kind of open to the public to enjoy and see some really cool athletics.
That's great. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing. And, you know, it's good that we start early, even though it's going to hurt the day of, because who knows what the weather is going to be. So thankful that I get to start at 7:30, even though I was making jokes about it.
It's not like you're going to be sleeping much anyway.
Don't jinx it. Actually, jinx the fact that I'm not going to sleep.
I was going to say when you want me
Please
to
jinx that. Yeah, because I want sleep. All right, what do you got for me next?
Yeah, so outside of the race, what are you most looking forward to with regard to like the trip to Chicago?
Yeah, you know, and this is going to be a long-winded answer, so get ready for it. Outside of the actual, and I took this question when you asked it to me, I was like, outside of the actual marathon itself, what part of the trip am I looking forward to the most? And I would just say it is going to be all of the experiences that having the Chicago Marathon occurring is going to bring to Chicago. And so I will give examples. So first of all, and you know, when I ran New York City, I probably went over the top when it came to some of these experiences. And you and I, we haven't actually talked through like what we want to do, what we don't, but this will actually perhaps open up a discussion. So first of all, there's a lot of different shakeout runs that occur all week, really. But for us, we'll have an opportunity to probably do it on Friday. That'll be the best day for us, with us landing Thursday night. But to give the viewers an idea, I think Thursday and Friday, there's all these different shakeout runs. Peloton is hosting a shakeout run. And like normally when these big brands and companies do them, like they give out like prizes, giveaways. There's all sorts of surprises, special guests that join for these runs. So Peloton, the influencer Kafuzi, alongside of Rabbit Running, they're hosting a shakeout together in collaboration. Your favorite headphone company, Shocks, is teaming up with Fleet Feet for a shakeout run. Lululemon will have one as well. Viore is holding one. There's this running influencer I like on YouTube. We've actually been watching some of his videos. Floberg runs. He's holding a shakeout with a ton of other influencers. I know that there's some guests from BPN who are going to be present there. I don't know who, but that's exciting. And then there's Brooks, who has a guest speaker panel. They're doing it alongside of a company I've never heard. It's PYNRS. I believe that's Pines, or Piers, excuse me. I don't even know how to pronounce it. But yeah, that's happening. There is also, with New Balance and 3 Runs, they are hosting a post-marathon dance party, which is interesting and exciting all at the same time for anyone who's into that party scene. You've got Ultra, that's ALTRA, Ultra probably. They're hosting like a recovery experience after the race, so probably expect massages, probably a Normatec handy. And then also before the marathon as well, I don't want to forget about this, there is a live show with the podcast Nobody Asked Us. For those who aren't familiar, that's a podcast that Des Linden as well as Kara Gucher, the two of them host that show. And I haven't actually listened to that podcast, but I know people who have, and they said it's great. So they're going to be doing that in Chicago. You can show up and listen to that podcast live, which I think is really cool. And then also there is a carb load welcome party that Brooks is holding, and they have a guest speaker panel. Now, that's all the things that are live online 12 days out from the marathon. A lot of companies, like, they don't announce some of these events until even closer to the race. So these events, you know, it's like you have to go on like Eventbrite or different websites to register. A lot of them are first come, first serve, and things can get sold out. But there's also other things that are going to pop up probably over the next few days. As well, the expo is a great experience where you can see a lot of these brands. You can do a lot of shopping. There's going to be guest speakers going on throughout the entire expo, probably famous runners who have ran Chicago, or influencers, things of that nature. So that's really cool as well. And I think the part that you're going to really like, Colleen, as well, is the fact that if you show up to places on Marathon Monday, they like to call it, with your medal, and we'll be in Chicago till Monday night for a good reason. You know, typically places will do something special for you. You might be able to get a free coffee, a free donut, free slice of Chicago pizza.
Medal Monday is where it's at.
Yeah, so while it is an investment to go and do this race, there is a lot within the community that makes it worthwhile. We're going to go away. We're going to come back with like a bunch of shirts and socks and hats and a bunch of crap stickers that we may need or may not. But that's what makes this fun. It's like, you know, it's like Halloween for adults, right? I'm done eating candy really in my life, but like this feels like kind of like a Halloween for adults while doing something really special and fun. So yeah, I know that was a simple question with a long answer, but I'm just really excited. So I needed to get all that out.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that?
No.
She's like, that was a lot. We'll figure it out later. Well, yeah, my last question for you, Colleen, would be, this is your first road race that is at this scale, right? You've ran some half marathons, 5Ks, even 10Ks, but you've actually never done a marathon. However, for those who don't know, Colleen, she's ran 50Ks, 100K trail races, very challenging races, but this is going to be the first marathon as well as by far the biggest crowd that you will have for a race. And so it's a new experience. I think it's a really exciting one. But I guess, like, what are you doing differently for this race? Or what do you plan on doing differently to kind of mentally prepare for what's to come with a race where you're going to be with a lot of people compared to, like, isolated in a quiet trail?
Yeah, I think, so things that I'm going to do differently, I'm not going to run with headphones. I want to take in the environment. I also want to be aware of everyone that's around me. I am not going to be having, like, a running vest on me, which will be different because usually I have, like, an abundance of supplies with me, so I'm going to try and balance between being nice and prepared and not being too overly prepared to where it slows me down. But I'm preparing to just focus on running my own race and not getting caught up at the beginning where everyone goes out like super quick. I know that I'm going to be in a fast corral, so I'm going to try and stay to the back. I'm going to try and not focus on bobbing and weaving as much, and just kind of knowing that if my first couple miles are a little slower than what I want, that's fine. I can pick it up at the end and that'll be okay. And also adjusting to, like, the mile markers not being exact and maybe doing some of those auto laps, or like manually clicking whenever the mile goes through. Yeah, I would say I'm just trying to be a bit more flexible, I guess, and focusing on hitting and doing what I need to do and trying not to worry as much about everyone around me.
Cool. Well, sounds good, Colleen. I'm really excited for you. I have a feeling this is going to be like a life-changing day for you in running and just like
trying to convert me to a road runner. I know.
I mean, you're running a road race, so it seems like you've already been like slightly converted, but
okay.
But you're also a trail runner, so it's okay to wear multiple hats. Well, listen, I know it is late for us here, and we got through all our questions in just over 40 minutes. So hopefully this episode provided value for you. If you have any questions on the questions we answered, maybe you need some more specifics, feel free to reach out. If there's other questions, gray areas within the race, or you just need some tips or advice when it comes to mindset, whatever it might be, we're here to help support. So reach out to us on Instagram or TikTok. Those are the best ways to get in touch with Run Breiter. And yeah, just really excited for Chicago. Colleen, I know you're going to do excellent, and I know yeah, I was going to say, I know I'm going to do the best I can.
He's going to do great.
But, you know, it's all part of the process, preparing for this race for a very long time. We've been, this has been the race of the year for me, right? I've been pretty much, ever since I got the 2 thumbs up, this has been the focus area for 9 months. And so whatever happens, happens, but we're going to have as much fun as we can and, give it all that we can, really. I don't know. Anything else you want to say on it?
No, I'm excited. I'm sleepy, but I'm excited. And this will be, I think, a really good race. It'll be exciting. I'm happy to be doing my first major in my home state, which I think will be kind of cool. I grew up running in Illinois and the humidity, and so hopefully the dryness that I've been running in the past couple years won't shoot me in the foot. But maybe the altitude will make up for it. Who knows? But I'm excited to run through Chicago. I'm excited to get to be part of this larger community on a much grander scale. And I think, Sam, you're going to kill it.
Well, thanks, Colleen. Well, we'll be posting as well on Instagram throughout the weekend some stories. And we will certainly have a podcast recap after the race. With the race being next Sunday, we'll try to get out that next episode the Wednesday after the race if we can, because we've been dropping these episodes every other Wednesday. However, we may need like a day or 2 buffer after all the travel and recovery that comes. So we'll play it by ear there. But if you are running Chicago and you also like want to come say hi, get together like at the expo or something, or grab a cup of coffee, let us know for free. We'll make it happen, but no promises. It's going to be a busy one. But yeah, best of luck with everyone on Chicago or whatever race you might be training for. And friends, as always,
don't forget to run brighter.
See you again soon.